another episode of the Chaos Chronicles.
Navigating the randomness.
I'm Jess,
I'm Connie.
and this week, Connie is going to be leading our episode, and we're going to be talking about the history of Memorial Day.
Yes. Before we get too deep into things, just a reminder to like, follow, subscribe, and you can also find us on TikTok, YouTube. Spotify, and Instagram. The handle for all four is at Chaos Chronicles Podcast, and that's Chronicles with an S.
Yes. All right.
There we
Well, off to you.
Off to me. Okay, I do want to say a big thank you to my dad for this episode because
Yes.
I was at his house yesterday and I'm like, hey, you happen to know the history of Memorial Day? And he goes, yeah, I've given a speech on it. Do you want my speech and my research? So today's episode is brought to you by Papa Tony. So thank you. Awesome. Well, we want to make this a relatively quicker episode because we're sure you guys are getting ready for the long Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But how many of you actually know the history of Memorial Day? I didn't.
Well, and a lot of people get Memorial Day and Labor Day confused because they're close, but they're not identical.
They definitely do. Honestly, I do sometimes. I forget what Labor Day is.
I have to think about it.
Same.
Takes me a hot minute for sure.
Same. And for those outside of the US who don't celebrate those, Memorial Day is the last Monday in May every year, and Labor Day is the first Monday in September.
Yes.
Yes. Also had to think about that one.
Yes.
I only really remember that one because of the water park we worked at. That was the last day of the season. So,
yep. And then school started the next day.
Yeah, it was fun that way.
It's great.
Awesome. Well, getting into the history of Memorial Day, it wasn't officially recognized as a holiday by the federal government until 1971. However, it was really started by Confederate women after the Civil War.
Oh.
And this was done because they didn't feel that it was right that so many soldiers were just buried in mass graves. And the Civil War is one of the bloodiest wars our country has had. There was a lot of casualties. And so these women started these small ceremonies, these small memorials. One of the earliest celebrations is actually believed to be held by a group of formerly enslaved people in Charleston, South Carolina, less than a month after the Confederacy surrendered in 1865. That's the first organized one.
Okay.
But that being said, it, as it typically kind of is in our history, wasn't really acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
So Memorial Day actually became a thing in 1966, where the federal government declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day.
Oh.
Yeah. And
interesting.
I'm not really sure how Waterloo got in there.
I was gonna say seems a little random.
It does seem a little bit random.
I'm sure there is a reason, but
I'm sure. I just don't have it in my notes right now. Sorry, guys. But Waterloo first celebrated Memorial Day on May 5th, 1866, and it was chosen on that date because it hosted an annual community-wide event during which businesses closed and residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags. And actually, did you know that each year on Memorial Day, there is a national moment of remembrance that takes place at 3 p.m. local time?
I do, actually.
I did not.
So growing up, there was always a Memorial Day service at the church that my grandma lived by. And my grandpa was buried at that church cemetery. And he was a veteran as well. And they had this beautiful ceremony at 3 p.m. And then they do the
21 gun salute. Yep.
There was always 7 of them, and then they would do it 3 times. So that, and then play taps afterwards. But they went and they decorated every single grave that was a veteran.
I do like that. There is something similar up in my mom's hometown. And I do believe that there is a pretty massive undertaking at our large Fort Snelling Cemetery in, is that St. Paul right there in Minneapolis?
Yes.
St. Paul.
St. Paul.
Yeah, it's St. Paul.
Yeah, it's St. Paul.
Yep. Yep. Which actually, that's where my grandparents and my uncle is buried because my grandpa and my uncle were veterans. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I should make my way over there.
It is beautiful over there.
It is beautiful.
It's one of our fun places to go.
The only times I've been over there not for a funeral has been going to the Terminal 2 airport, and it's always
Mm-hmm.
been so chaotic.
It's always it's a bad exit.
It's
Let's
not
be
a great setup.
honest. It's not.
No,
It's really not.
it's a little rough if you're ever visiting Minnesota and you want to go visit Fort Snelling, which I suggest you should.
It's
It is
beautiful.
beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's also very humbling just how
Yes.
massive it is. Um, but it's beautiful. Also, the roads leading to it are a little
Sketchy?
clustery, potholes and clustered.
Yeah.
Said with all love.
Yes.
Yes, but still a great place to go. So on May 5th, 1868, General John A. Logan, a leader of an organization for Northern Civil War veterans, called for a nationwide day of remembrance later that month. The 30th of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. And that was a direct quote from John A. Logan. So there's always been some type of memorial happening, whether it was done by the Confederate women, the enslaved folks, or those who served with these
Mm-hmm.
people who fell, because there is obviously you want to honor your veterans no matter what country you're from. It's a respect that they have more than earned. So
Absolutely.
understandable. But did you know that Memorial Day is not the original name of the holiday?
Did not know that.
Yeah, the original name was actually called Decoration Day.
Okay.
Hmm.
Not the same ring.
No, I do like Memorial better.
Yeah.
Um, but it was called Decoration Day for the longest time because you're decorating
The
the
graves.
graves. And for a long time, they had it on that early May 5th date because it wasn't the day of any Oh, I'm going to
Particular?
start over.
Yeah, you
I
could
combined two sentences.
done that.
And so it's called Decoration Day, and it was originally held on that May 5th date because there wasn't any anniversaries for any particular battles.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't stepping on anyone's toes. So it stayed that way. And then, the country goes on, and then we get into World War One, where now we are seeing the next big battle. We're seeing the casualties. We're seeing our young boys go off, and many don't return.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where Memorial Day, it takes on a greater significance for those living at the time. So with Decoration Day having mainly been for the Civil War, but then we get into World War One, the Memorial Day became not just one particular war, it became veterans who died in all wars, all American wars. And unfortunately, we like to add several wars to that, where we had World War One, World War Two, Vietnam War, Korean War, Afghanistan, Iraq. We've had a couple. We've definitely had a couple. And then for decades, Memorial Day continued to be observed on May 30th. Oh, I do apologize. I say May 5th before I meant May 30th. Um, and that was the day that General Logan had selected when he gave his speech. But in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May in order to create a 3-day weekend for federal employees. The change went into effect in 1971, and the same law also declared Memorial Day a federal holiday. Now, we just kind of take it for granted as a 3-day weekend for
Yeah.
most folks. And that was actually one of the criticisms of the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, was that this is going to become just another 3-day weekend for everybody. And it kind of has become the unofficial start to summer, because here in the US, we celebrate Memorial Day weekend with the barbecues, the fireworks. You go up to the cabin or the lake or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is your real kickoff to the summer season. But that does take away a little bit from what it actually is.
It has a lot deeper meaning than just a day off.
Exactly.
Yep.
So let's see. In more recent years, cities and towns across the U.S. host Memorial Day parades each year, and they often incorporate military personnel and members of veterans organizations. Whoa. I know I have seen quite a few of those in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And those are always a little sad where they've got the veterans who, honestly, they can ride in a car. We're not going to think less of them for riding in a car, especially the older ones.
They don't want to do that, though.
They don't. Some do, only if they physically cannot walk, but if they even can a little.
And that's a part of their service back. Like they want to WALK, almost said it. Somehow they didn't catch it when you said it.
Oh my God.
We have dogs. But a lot of them, it's a part of their duty and their honor to walk. Well,
it's hard, isn't it?
I am so sorry. But it's part of their honor and duty to WALK. And them going in a car is not it. It's not it. So you see a lot of people like having walkers in front of them. And
we're safe on that one.
Okay, I think we're good on that one. So they're using like walkers or canes to help them go, but they will do whatever it takes to get through it.
Oh yeah. No, it's honestly impressive, and it's very much one of those humbling moments where you're
Absolutely
able to understand, like, oh my God, this is a life that I take for granted. We all take for granted, and we would not be able to live the lives that we lead today without
those people,
without those sacrifices of both the living and the deceased. So it's a really touching moment. And it's not just, parades. We like to do those too. America likes parades. We do.
I've actually never been to a Memorial Day parade.
Really?
Growing up, I always went to that Memorial Day service at the church, and that was it, really. But it was a beautiful ceremony that they do. Like, the priest comes out and says a whole big spiel and says like what Memorial Day is about and why we are celebrating. And it's not about the barbecues, it's not about the parades, it's not about the big summer. It has an actual meaning.
Yeah. No, I like that. I haven't been to too many religious ones, but I've gone to quite a few that have been hosted by the VFW in my mom's small town, which actually my uncle that just passed away this year, he's one of the few remaining veterans in town. So he would stand up, he would be there, and even though the Lewy body dementia really did its number on him over the last few years, when he could make it, he definitely did, which was a real testament to him. But yeah, so speaking of ceremonies, if you've ever seen any Memorial Day ceremonies, parades, anything, you'll probably notice that it tends to be adorned, decorated with poppies, the flower. And poppies actually have a meaning to Memorial Day, where it was a poem written by John McCrae. I hope I said that right. He lost one of his very good friends in World War I, and so he wrote this beautiful poem, which I'm going to attempt to read. It's called In Flanders Field. So, in Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders field. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw, the torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. It's really sweet.
That was beautiful. Wow. I was getting chills as you were
I know, me too. I was also trying to remember how to recite poetry.
been a hot minute.
It's been a large hot minute, and it's got all the little cues with the semicolons where I'm like, breathe here, breathe here.
I want to say since middle school.
Same.
Okay, yeah.
That was the hot minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hot minute.
Yeah, but beautiful.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. It helps you really, be able to sink in the true meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And just, if you guys want to look it up, go look it up so you can really dive into it. I mean, you did a great job saying it, but if you really want to truly embrace it, something about poetry, to me, you have to it's more visual.
It is more visual than it is spoken. For some, spoken.
For some.
Not for me.
No, I prefer to see it. I don't know. It's something about it. It just...
Yeah, and it is written out beautifully in prose, and the grammar is done a certain way. But I really love the line, "We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields."
That was when I got the chills.
Yeah.
That was when I got the chills.
That's
absolutely
beautiful.
Beautiful.
No, I love it.
Wow.
Good job, John McCrae. Yes? John McCrae. We have a lot of names in these episodes, so sometimes a random one will pop in my head, and I'm like, nope, not this one.
Hard to remember.
And yet somehow several of the names from Dyatlov Pass pop up in my head where I want to say Yuri, and I'm like, why? I don't know.
Well, there's a plug for our Dyatlov Pass episode, so go check it out if you haven't.
Yes. Don't watch it while you're barbecuing this weekend, though.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not. Unless you have a strong stomach, then go for it.
Yeah. If you're like myself,
or me,
go for it.
Oh, yeah, you have a strong stomach. I do not. I still haven't had salami.
Yeah.
It's been months. Anyway, so that was, I kind of think that's a good little spot to wrap that part on. There's a few other things about the history of Memorial Day that are specific more to towns and states, where some states, they do have massive parades. Like, I know New York has a couple of big ones. Chicago, Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I think those are the 3 largest parades and celebrations.
Not surprising.
Not surprising, because that's also when they do that ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, right?
Yeah. I've actually seen that.
Really?
Yes. I was young. So a lot of the trips that I went on growing up, I was very young. So I'm the youngest in my family. So I was going on trips starting at 6 years old.
Yeah.
And when we went to Washington, D.C., I want to say that I was 8, I think. And so obviously at that time, I didn't understand the significance of what was going on. But I remember my brother, second to oldest, he was so into history. So like when we were going to like Gettysburg and Jamestown, he would always tell me more about what happened there. So we'd be like walking and he would tell me what was going on there. And so I remember, like you have to be dead silent during. And so I was dead silent. But before it started, my brother quickly like rambled on like what it was, what the significance was, why we can't talk during it. And it just like, even as like a little kid, I'm like, wow, this is so significant. And now looking back, I'm like, I wish I was so much older going to see that.
You and I have to go to DC. That would be so much fun.
We have to go to a lot of places.
We do. But like the museums, the history. I love the history of wars, which sounds morbid. It's not. I'm fascinated and I have a great respect for.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way to put that.
One of the cool things that we did, and I believe it was Gettysburg, which was really cool to go and walk the mounds and everything, but they also have guided tours, and some of them are audio tours.
Oh,
so you can go by yourself and go and just go through these mounds and just hear the story. And that was by far my unless I'm messing it up with a different one, because again, I was like 8 years old. That was one of my favorite ones to go to.
That would be so cool. I don't believe I went to Gettysburg because I was in DC when I was in 8th grade. So preteen, not even, no, it was teen at that point. Angst was strong. It was a little rough,
That's
but
okay.
it's fine. But I do remember we went to the Vietnam War Memorial, the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember seeing
Yes.
that. We didn't do Gettysburg. We went and saw the Lincoln Memorial, which is cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, although the reflection pool was under construction at the time, so like
Oh,
I
that's
wish we had seen
yeah.
that, but it was still pretty cool.
Again, I want to go back because I've seen all these things, but like I wasn't old enough to be able to like understand the meaning behind it, like
Fully
understand the
grasp.
significance, you know?
I know, that's how I feel. I want to go back and see the Constitution again and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
I saw that. I like remember going into the room because it's a half round room so you can see everything. But I also remember being in there and I'm like, oh, this is just like a test. Oh my God, it's like a test. Now I'm like, oh my God, you're such an ungrateful little brat. You should have enjoyed it.
I know. Well, it's like again, 8 years old. Um so half of my memory is kind of being there and the other half of my memory is like parts of National Treasure.
I love those movies. They're
I do
guilty
too.
pleasures.
I do too. But like I'm just seeing like Nicolas Cage with like the camera.
The
and,
camera.
like,
Oh my God. I love those movies so
oh,
much.
they're so good. And if you
Oh,
haven't seen them, maybe you should check them out this weekend while you're preparing
heck
for
yes. I
Memorial
think they're
Day.
both on Disney Plus.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's
Go
good.
check them out.
They're so good.
Highly recommend. It's they're fun. I know they're Disney, but like you wouldn't know that they're Disney.
Because they're based off of a book, I believe.
Are they?
I believe so, yeah. Because they made a series not that long ago, and they started putting the series on. It actually also might be Disney Plus, and I watched a little bit of it, but it's not Nick Cage. It's like it's the same universe, but a different telling of it.
Gotcha.
So
Well,
I only got a few episodes in, but that was also because I was watching it with my family, and we were at the cabin trying to get the cabin ready to be sold.
yeah.
And so I didn't want to watch ahead without them, but everybody was so slow. So anyway, yes,
Yeah.
National Treasure, back from a dog break. It's entertaining. Something about the mystery and the history. It's just enjoyable. Both
Yeah.
actual history and the National Treasure series.
Yeah. It's really good. It's one of those like feel good movies, and I've always been a history nerd, so
Same.
yeah. So
No, I love reading stuff about World War II, but I find that I have to pull back a little bit sometimes just because of
Too
how
much.
heavy it is, where it's like, ooh, I need a break. I need to remember there's good in the world.
Yeah, I can't ever read more than one of those books at a time or a movie at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And even still, sometimes I'll be halfway through one of those books and be like, I have to put this down.
Oh, I know.
It is so heavy.
That's also how I feel about Vietnam War stuff, because I remember the first time I saw that iconic picture of the little girl running with her clothes torn off because she had been doused in Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Like I saw that in a classroom and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I've read more about it. And then I read about the treatment of the soldiers when they came back being called baby killers, which it's just so sad.
It's awful.
Everything was so horrible about that one. And there's still Vietnam veterans today. And I cannot imagine what they went through.
No.
Very grateful for them and all veterans, but also I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
No. Can't even imagine.
No, and I hope we never have to know.
No, Oof.
No, anyone who wishes for war, what the actual hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But that's just me judging hardcore.
Yeah. Well, let us know what your Memorial Day traditions are.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah. And one of the Memorial Day traditions that
I was going to say, we got to get yours in there.
We do, yeah. So one thing that I was finally able to do last year I didn't know. The years before that, I was injured. And then the years before that, I had no idea that this was a thing. But me and my husband, as well as some of our gym friends, we all do what is called the Murph, which is very popular. I'd be surprised if a lot of people haven't heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very widely known. So, this workout is a 1 mile run, 100 pull ups, 200 push ups, 300 air squats, and then finishing with a mile run. But during all of that, wearing a 20-pound vest or body armor. Such an insane workout, but it is classified as a hero WOD in CrossFit. So, workout of the day is a WOD.
Yeah. And that's actually the shirt you're wearing right now, too. For those who are watching the video, see Jess's cool shirt.
It's really cool. So this was from last year's Murph, which was the first one that I ever did. And I did half Murph because still recovering. And it's an insane workout.
Yeah.
So
the 100 pull-ups alone, I hear that and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I did half Murph and I did not wear a vest. But I was able to finish. And so hero WODs, for a little education on CrossFit here. Hero WODs in CrossFit are made to honor the men and women that have fallen in the line of duty. And then this one is specifically to honor Navy Lieutenant Michael Murphy. He was killed in action in Afghanistan on June 28th, 2005. So a lot of these hero WODs also have a reasoning behind what the movements are and everything. And I could not for the life of me remember what this one was. Well, it turns out that this workout was actually Michael's favorite workout to do. And so at that time, prior to him passing away, it was referred to as body armor. So every year, CrossFitters synonymously around the world pay special tribute to Lieutenant Murphy by joining together and suffering through this workout.
Suffering does sound to be correct.
It is, but then it really it helps you remember Memorial Day is not about barbecues. It's about people actually putting their lives on the line and sacrificing their actual lives so that we can be here.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, celebrate.
Of course.
Celebrate. But remember why we are celebrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, live your life. Enjoy that you are able to be living and be grateful for it, which sounds so condescending and mean to say. I don't mean it that way, but just realize that you are getting to enjoy a life that others do not. Mm-hmm. These soldiers, these veterans that passed, they would have loved to have been able to have a barbecue on a 3-day weekend, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't?
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not something that they got. And so that's why we are thankful for them. That's why we have our poppies. That's why we have the 21 gun salute, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. There is so much. And this makes it sound like everything's in the past. It's not. There are still many organizations today that are fighting for veterans' rights because there have been many things in recent years, such as burn pits, where veterans are coming home and they are dying of cancer. My college roommate, her aunt, she died at, I believe, age 36, left behind 4 small children and a husband, and they have actually created a foundation for her. I want to say it's called the Amy Foundation, AIMEE, and it's for burn pits because she was stationed by burn pits. She came back and had stage 4, I believe, liver cancer and passed away.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yep. What they're exposed to, what they see, what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
No. So highly recommend check out your local area. There are plenty of ways to volunteer for the VFW and other organizations. For those who don't know, VFW is the Veterans. Is it Veterans of Foreign Wars? I was so
Yes.
confident until I
Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States.
Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. There we
As
go.
soon as you looked at me, I was like, oh no.
I know.
I am somewhat confident, but not confident enough to say anything.
I was like, I'm confident. I know this. And then I started talking and went, oh no. But yeah, I highly suggest you check them out. There are plenty of ways to donate, help out. It's not always money, sometimes your time. And honestly, sometimes just chatting with the veterans. Some of the best conversations that I ever had when I was a server and a bartender was my veterans who would come in, and they were our regulars. They'd come in, they'd sit, they'd have a beer, they'd have a burger. We're hitting a lot of American stereotypes here, but
Yeah.
we just chat. Not war stories because
No.
PTSD, but
A lot of them don't like to talk about it, and I get it.
oh yes, of course. Well, you especially.
Yeah, I remember one time when I was working as a paramedic, I went to a VFW to pick up a patient.
Mhm.
And I mean, it wasn't anything major. He was ultimately fine, but I remember he gave both me and my partner these little Navy tokens that he had, and I still have it. It's in my car, and it's
Aw.
always been in my car since. But he was just like, just because you're not in a war doesn't mean that you don't know what it looks like, and handed it to me. And he said, never forget that I am thankful for people like
Aw.
you. And I started crying. I'm gonna
gonna
cry now. Oh,
Oh, that's
um,
wonderful.
yeah. I remember after I can't look at you right now.
I know. I'm gonna look at the ceiling.
After we dropped him off, I remember me and my partner just like sat in the garage for a minute and just both just started bawling.
He's right
Oh,
though. He is
it-
absolutely right.
yeah, but he was the sweetest guy ever. Everyone there was so sweet. And it was just like really nice to chat with him, and it was a really short transport. I think we were a couple blocks away from the hospital when we picked him up. It was the one literally right next to the hospital. So I didn't get a huge opportunity to chat with him, but super sweet. Both my grandpa, actually all three of my grandpas were in the wars. I don't know specifically who was in what war, but they were all in wars, and they were all great guys. I
Yeah.
didn't meet two of them, but I heard stories. The other one was amazing, most friendly, loving guy I've ever known. But even still, go and there are many times working as a paramedic where we just pass by a lot of veterans in nursing homes. You could always, check with a nursing home that's near you and see if you can just go and chat. Or I know some have like pen pal
Yep.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can even sign up for something like that. They love it. They
Oh my
love
God,
telling
yes.
stories.
Yes, most of them do. Now, please beware if you have small children and you're enrolling the children in the small or in the pen pal program. Some veterans, not all stories are age appropriate. It depends on the individual, like anybody.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I was growing up and when we'd go and visit my mom's hometown, small town again, and we'd go visit the, I want to call it by its name, but that gives it away.
Yeah.
We'd go visit the assisted living home, which was
Mhm.
attached to the hospital and the old folks' home. When my sisters and I would go there, oh, there was so many folks that would come out and they knew us. I can't remember all their names right now, but they were just old folks and they just wanted to chat, veterans
Yep.
and civilians alike.
Yeah.
Honestly, old folks, they really just want to have someone to chat with.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet. It does get lonely, especially for veterans, because those that they can really chat with, it goes down over time. But that is why that's so sweet that that man that you had the call for recognized that first responders, though you don't wear a military uniform, you still enter into essentially war zones.
Yeah.
That's really huge.
Yeah. So still have that token. I'm never
that
getting
one.
rid of it.
No, keep it. Keep it.
It's gonna stay with me.
Oh, it's so sweet. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we could go on and on about all this. As you can tell, obviously, we've got a lot of love and respect for veterans. We've got family. We've friends. It's a lot. But yeah, we'd like to hear some of your stories. What
Yes.
are things that you remember from your family that served in the war in any capacity, whether it was fighting as a soldier or as a nurse or other in the Army? Because I had my great aunt. She was a nurse for many, many years in World War I and II, or just one. I'd have to double check.
My grandma, what was it called? The candy nerd, the candy, the stripes, like
Oh,
the nurse aides, but they're candy stripers, right?
that sounds
Candy
right.
stripers.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So that's what my grandma was, and I didn't
Oh,
realize it until I visited her on Christmas, and she told me, and I was like, "You did that?" And
that's awesome. Stripe, by the way.
yeah,
Candy
stripe,
stripe.
stripe, candy
Yes.
striper, not close to it. Striper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I was like, just in case, depending on the audio, we're going to clarify real quick.
Yes.
Jess's grandma was not partying.
No, not to that capacity.
Not to that capacity.
No.
No shame on anyone who
But
did. You do you.
yeah, were your grandparents or relatives?
Did your brain?
Yep,
It's okay. Mine's
it
done it
broke.
several times.
It broke. But let us know, like, growing up, did you have any specific Memorial Day traditions that actually reflected upon Memorial Day, like beyond, your typical barbecues and
Yep.
cabin days? We would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah. And if you're a veteran yourself, thank you for your service. Thank you for
so
watching this
much.
episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, just maybe let us know, what branch were you in? Where'd you serve? If you're comfortable. If not, no worries. No pressure.
No
It's the
pressure.
internet. You do not have to put your information out there if you don't want, because
Definitely not.
no, it's the internet.
But thank you for your service.
Yeah. And thank you for watching this episode. Just a reminder, please like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. You can also find us on TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram, all with the handle at Chaos Chronicles Podcast. And that's Chronicles with an S. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you next time.
Adios.
Bye.